What is happening? Welcome to the Will Studios. I'm Will, and this episode, let's talk about Star Wars. Star Wars, growing up, I watched the original Star Wars a bajillion times. My stepfather was probably the biggest Star Wars geek in the world. And, let me do this. I was going to draw a Jedi, but I'm just going to come back to the X-Men picture, Gonna do a generic X-Men group shot. People should click on it, right? Gotta promote the channel. Anywho, Star Wars. Loved Star Wars growing up. Then in the 90s, it was they remade them. They remixed them with modern special effects, and from then on it's like Star Wars was never the same. And it's kind of baffling to me because nowadays you have people who really loved the prequels. They're like, we were kids growing up when the Phantom Menace came out, and we just loved it. And I'll be honest, I loved the Phantom Menace too when it first came out. I was so excited to see Star Wars, like my own Star Wars, because my stepdad grew up in the 70s. He saw the original Star Wars in theaters 129 times because his local theater kept giving him a free ticket, or he kept getting free tickets somehow. I forget exactly what the story was, but I think it's like he just kept going back to see Star Wars over and over again. He exploited some loophole with the Boy Scouts in his area or something, and he had all the lines memorized. He was that guy. So it was big in my house. I loved it. But then those special editions came out, and I'm like, I was real disappointed because a lot of it was absolutely pointless. It didn't add a single thing, really, in my opinion, to the movies, and it took away a bit of the charm of the movies, frankly, because they lost a little bit of that timeless element that is crucial to Star Wars. It's a product of the 70s, man. You can't take that away from it. And they tried to in the 90s, and nowadays you can't even get, I don't think you can get the originals anymore. All of the ones that you can find are edited. They'll have extra scenes of Jabba the Hutt's got to come talk to Han about whatever the fuck is going on with him, instead of just having it be perfect the way it was originally shot. They have to add... Anyway. So then they came out with the prequels, and I was super pumped about it. I saw The Phantom Menace twice in theaters, because I thought Darth Maul was badass. All the special effects were cool. But, nowadays, and pretty soon after the second viewing, I'm sitting in the theater and I'm watching it for the second time, and I'm like, wow, this pod racing stuff really drags on. And do we really need this much space NASCAR in the movie? And midichlorians, I caught the midichlorian things on the first viewing, where, let me sample your... Qui-Gon comes up, oh, let me sample your blood. Whoa, your midichlorians are off the charts, we're Scientologists. Is it a Thetan meter? What are we doing? Because the Force, if you just watch... Because all I did was watch the original trilogy. I was not into the extended universe. I know people who are. My wife loves all the books. I don't think she read any of the comics. I definitely did not read any of the comics. So, I don't know at what point the Force stopped being sort of a mystical, ethereal element that you had to train, and it's almost like the Force needs to choose you to bear it, and, you know. So you were. So it went from that, in my head canon, to, um, you're born with these little microorganisms. These microorganisms that exist in your blood are connected to the Force, and that's what does it. And you're a Force sensitive, so now it's like you're a mutant. So now the Force is a mutant ability that multiple people acquire. Like if the X-Men only had one ability, you got the Jedi now. That's what it is. And it's stupid, in my opinion. You know, all opinions expressed at the Will Studios are Will's opinions. So now we get the Acolyte. Well, I skipped a few things, you know. So the prequels, Phantom Menace, DC, you know, like it was really, a lot of things about it were ill-conceived. The Gungans were never cool on either viewing. And Jar Jar's been beaten to death over the internet since forever. And then George comes out and says, well, it was made for kids. And it's like, dude, just make a good story and the kids will like it. Was the original Star Wars made for kids? Or was it a really cool, you know, adults loved it. Like, good movies can stand up to adult criticisms, you know. Or you can at least think it out instead of going with your first draft, you know. Because in hindsight, the whole prequel trilogy should have started with Anakin older, like 14, 15, at least. Becoming a Padawan, maybe. Or maybe he's already been a Padawan. I think they could probably make 3 movies out of him graduating to Jedi. Like, just take Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, was it? Yeah. And make that 3 movies. That would be much better. Much better. We don't need space NASCAR. We can throw out the whole idea about Anakin creating C-3PO and working with R2-D2. I don't think it's necessary at all. It's insane to me that they insisted on doing that. But I guess they just, to them, Star Wars has to have those 2 droids in it. In that sense, the whole trilogy is about them. If C-3PO and R2-D2, well, I guess they brought BB-8 in for the sequel trilogies. R2-D2 is no longer the main marketing item. They've sold enough of his stuff. Enough R2-D2 toys have been. I feel like I've drawn Wolverine, at least like doodled him in my sketchbook a bajillion times. But I digress. Prequels could have just focused on adult Anakin. It would have been way more badass. They should have got me to write it. But nobody knows me, which is why I need to release. Because if they could have just thought, man, we should call Will and get his take on this. Because he's an idea man. has great ideas. And you're thinking about, man, how do I do this? Now, with Wolverine's mask, a lot of times I just scribble in until it kind of makes sense. Man, if any professional artist actually ends up watching this, shaking their head, because like I said before, I'm going to draw this again. This is like the sort of tight undersketch. I'm going to tighten up the whole thing and then come back and put in another layer. And then I'll know where the shadows are going and stuff. And in this case, I can kind of give it a shine where appropriate. Maybe. I'll think it over. Where the highlights are going to go on his mask. So they kind of fucked up the prequel trilogies. They kind of pulled it out, and, you know, The Phantom Menace wasn't, like I said, there were some badass parts of it, so it wasn't even that terrible a movie. Now that the bar's been lowered so far, you can look back at the prequels and be like, man, that was actually... They had some good ideas. They had a handful of good ideas there back then, and we have 0 ideas now. Like, at least with the special editions, the big idea was to try and add more to the story. No, that was just a fucking cash. Nobody in the room thought that the Jabba scene was necessary. I just don't believe it. Oh, sorry, Mr. Microphone. I'm busy fucking up Wolverine's hand here. Because I'm trying to stop it before it hits Cyclops' abs. I gotta have Cyclops' abs. That's gonna be a main focus of the whole composition. Here's the focal points. Cyclops' abs, Wolverine's biceps, Rogue's boobies, Colossus's arms. I gotta get his tricep in there, right? We got Nightcrawler up here. I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep and a quarter of a Celsius. I know I'm not putting out like the most exciting content, but at least I'm going to put out a bunch consistently, and the quality will improve. I'm going to stop looking over at myself. I've got my camera here, and then my screen over here. Maybe I'll like add a little camera like down so you can look at me like staring at you while I'm drawing. It only makes sense for Wolverine's hand to come up this far though. Which means I gotta shrink Wolverine. But I kinda wanted him big in the foreground. Where are we at? What happened? Where are you putting me? I don't know, dude. Where do you belong? You know what? I'll just bring his... Let's do this. Bring his arm around like more of a 90-degree angle, which it really should be anyway. If he's ready to go, you know what I'm saying? And that can go here. And then his head can look up more. Shrink it down to here. Ooh, you know what? I ought to distort it down a little bit too. Yeah, that looks more like Wolverine. I just gotta... Now that his head's down there, I gotta give him a whole different, like, back. Pecs. And then with his arm that low. Ooh, don't want to go all the way like that. Bring that other shoulder down. So that'll be closer to... Wolverine. Then, sorry, Scott. What can we do about this? Because ooh, you know what? I can bring Wolverine down just a little bit. A little bit more like this. And then make him a little bit bigger. There we go. See? Just gotta noodle it out. And now I feel like I'm gonna have... Because I can bring Cyclops up a little bit. Yeah, just like a little bit like that. You make him a little bit bigger, since Wolverine's bigger now. Ooh, I kind of like that. And so now we got... I mean, we're not going to see his crotch anymore, which is unfortunate, I know. But we do get to see... all Wolverine's claws. gotta bring his other arm up now. Because now I gotta make his whole anatomy make sense. That'll look good, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna look good. He's gonna look more like bloodthirsty in my final picture, I think. Give him more of a face forward sort of deal. Anywho, Colossus. Trouble is, okay, I just had Colossus standing back there, right? But he should be doing something. Should he have his hands like... No. It's gonna have him do like one of these, but... Maybe like one of these. Still just standing there, though. First person to actually start like commenting on videos is gonna be able to tell me what to do with Colossus. Like, I only just started and I'm already like, I want attention. It'll come. Just gonna autopilot out some arms for him. What can he be doing? He never uses a weapon. Just standing there. Looking shiny. Should be carrying... What if he's carrying a bomb? What if he just has a bomb? He's carrying it like groceries. I don't know. Let's just move on from him until I can think of something. Shoot, I'm already at 25 minutes. Oh, I stopped talking shit about the Acolyte. Oh, yeah. Trying to remember the last thing I said about Star Wars. I think it was that they should have stretched out, because if they started with the Clone Wars, the first movie, they would have had a lot more time, and the Clone Wars movie wouldn't have seemed like such a mess. That, and forget about... I don't want to see Yoda wield a lightsaber, frankly. He should just be using force fields and, like, grabbing people or whatever. Maybe give him a lightsaber, but you got him flipping around like Sonic the Hedgehog in that movie, fighting Palpatine. Of course, that was Revenge of the Sith by that point, and that was that scene where it was either Palpatine or Dooku or whoever Yoda was fighting at the time, pulled down something like he was going to crush Anakin, and then Yoda, like, held it in place, you know? What is... They need a class in the Jedi Academy, okay, on how to push the victim out of danger's way instead of grabbing the projectile or the heavy thing that's falling on somebody and just holding it there. Because then you're not in the fight anymore. You got Acolyte, where Jedi Trinity, is fighting the Sith girl, right? Who's using little daggers, right? She's got a bunch of these little daggers. Freaking, she shows up. She says, "Attack me with all your strength," which is dumb. Like, you can't. They did that thing where it's like they acknowledged that the line was cringe after it was said, as if that excused the fact that they wrote something cringy into the fucking script in the first place. Like, I don't understand that. She could have said... What's a badass thing that she could have said? She could have said something to piss her off. No, well, she's a Jedi. She wouldn't get pissed off. But to try and break her... cool. You know what I mean? So she has this history with Trinity, whatever the hell happened on that planet or whatever. I don't know, be a writer, but attack me with all your strength, and then having Trinity sit there and watch her manhandle everyone else who was sitting at the table before she, like, gets up and starts fighting. That's already... Like, all the good work that the choreographers did, right? Because the fight scene was pretty cool for the most part. How it began and how it ended was the problem. Because it's like you have script, and then it's like fight scene. So it's like the fight choreographers, the special effects people, that's going to make your show good. And then the writers got to pick it up again. The writers got to say, okay, how does this fight end? Does this fight end in a way that makes sense, where you respect the combatants, you know? Or does the Trinity Jedi forget that this girl has a bunch of fucking knives on her. You know what I mean? Trinity, the Jedi, is unaware of her surroundings to the point where, you know, the person attacking you with tiny knives has a hand behind their back, and you're not going to instantly think, oh, they have a knife in that hand that they're going to throw at me. And instead of swatting the dagger out of the air when she throws it at the bartender, or pushing the bartender out of the way of the dagger, like literally you could force grab the bartender's head and turn it to the side to make it miss him easily. But no, she was like, ugh, I'm gonna save you from the dagger, and I'm gonna like sit there and let it hover in front of your face for a second. Like, oh man, this Jedi just saved me. And then get a little 3-inch wound to the chest for the kill. From the shot that you should have seen coming, that everyone saw coming, but there it is. Does the assassin take the lightsaber? No. I don't believe so. Or did she? If she did, I wasn't paying attention. If she did, she didn't use it later. Yeah, they made them space cops. Like, Star Wars, it was cool because the Force was, like, mystical. It was referred to as a religion. And I really got the feeling, watching the original trilogy, watching Vader interact with the Imperial people, that, you know, they didn't even really necessarily respect it anymore, the Force or the Jedi, because they'd been wiped out. And I never would have guessed that the Jedi were like literally a police force. When the tape recording played, and it's like, you served under my father, the general, during the Clone Wars. And it's like, okay, so you have these warrior monks who fight for good and will participate in conflicts in order to maintain harmony, balance in the universe, you know, especially if there's like Sith involved. So sorry, I'm like, where is Cyclops? Is he really gonna have his elbow like down here? Where should his elbow be? If I have it like that, his elbow's gonna come up higher than the way I had it planned out. I'm anticipating my number one comment from people who do watch this video is going to be like, hey man, just draw or talk, because you'll be talking and you'll be on a roll talking, and then all of a sudden you'll stop because you get into whatever it is you're drawing. Hey man, I'm putting abs down. Freaking love abs. Abs are tight. Cyclops' abs are very tight. Like, apparently in the X-Men comic books right now, they're making Wolverine and Cyclops bisexual, so that they can have like little threesomes, I guess, with Jean Grey. I don't know. It seems ridiculous. I unverified information. But I can see why people would want to see that. You know what I mean? It seems like a lot of the comic book industry is catering towards like the shipping community and that sort of stuff, which I think it was inevitable given the talent pool. Like, I only know one person who was legit trying to go into like animation, and she was a shipper. Like, that's where her mind was. So yeah, all of our cartoons are being written by people who, when they see a fictional character, they start sexualizing them. They start, like, cooking up weird things. And, the X-Men has always had, like, relationships stuff going on, because there was always, like, I think Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean Grey was the first ever romantic, like, love triangle that I ever saw, where it's like, oh, so Jean Grey is with Cyclops, but Wolverine just openly is trying to take that, like, it was, in hindsight, it was, like, really weird. Because it seemed like Jean Grey was pretty loyal to Cyclops, at least, like, in the cartoon she was, like, everything that I was reading as a kid. Guarantee there's stuff that I just haven't read it, man. Somebody, zero people watching. I will Google later where exactly, what issues are there where Jean Grey is, like, in a relationship with Wolverine? Or was she always just like, nah, I think you're hot, but it's not going to work out? I think it was always the latter. Which kind of makes Wolverine a bit of a cuck to Cyclops. Cyclops is the Chad in the relationship. He ought to have his thing, but was it here or here? I think it was on his left side, right? Let me just... I have the internet. Oh wait, I have a freaking Cyclops figure. Freaking X-Men Cyclops figure right here. Alright. Hey, I got the hair right, so that's good. Yeah, it's definitely on this side. These straps are absolutely fucking pointless, I think. They're pointless. Man, I'd really like to see the X on it. Well, he's got one up here. He's got those long bicep muscles. Time for Beast, 40 minutes. 45-minute episode. Well, I haven't even finished talking about the Acolyte. Goodness, I have notes on the Acolyte. Yeah, so my first note is that the Jedi are only using the Force to make things. So it's just cheap telekinesis at this point. The Force is literally just cheap telekinesis. Because they used to be able to sense one another, which isn't happening in the show anymore. Like, they just sneak out there. The one dude is washing his robes in the middle of a corridor or something. Or maybe he was, like, in the ship. but he gets walked in on by the other two Jedi, wouldn't you, A, not be steaming your robes when you're supposed to be somewhere, and then B, like, I thought the Jedi were a little more responsible than me. Like, I'm ironing a shirt as I need it to leave. Uh, but you can hear people coming. You have heightened, you can feel the presence of other Jedi and Sith and anybody. It should be impossible to, like, sneak up on a Jedi. The only reason I buy the idea of, like, bounty hunters having a chance against Jedi is because they have unusual weaponry. Like, Boba Fett was using grappling hooks and stuff in his fight versus Obi-Wan in the prequels. And he had the rocket pack, and he was kitted out differently than, like, anybody else. So you're like, okay, he has the methods to deal with Jedi to hunt. It would be believable if Boba Fett won a fight against a Jedi for those reasons. But not because he snuck up and stabbed him with a little knife. That's not how Boba Fett would defeat a Jedi. Okay? He would use an explosive of some kind. He would set some sort of inescapable trap. Use his brains. That's what made him so cool. Yeah, the Force should guide them. Like, why do we need a bureaucracy to tell the Jedi where to go? Nose droid? I guess there was some weird looking alien. I shouldn't even be mad at that. I think that was the prison break sequence or whatever. There was some... cyborg, I guess, who hacked some shit. Oh yeah, wake up from a meth coma and run for the... So, what's her face? What is her name? I forget her name. Ahsoka? Is Ahsoka her name? Anyway, No, Ahsoka was the other show. God damn it. Whatever. Main character girl. Force-sensitive girl. Who apparently cannot use the Force. It's her twin sister. Spoiler alert. It's her magic twin sister who is the real Force. The one that's killing the Jedi. She has a twin. Yeah, she helps this other guy escape the ship. But he just wakes up. He was strung out, like, dying. And then all the other inmates escape because they hack the door. And then she's about to leave and take the last escape pod. But she doubles back because she's like, oh, man, I can't leave the meth head. Gotta go get him. So she goes and smacks him up or whatever she did. I forget how she wakes him up, but I do remember he wakes up and goes, ah! Starts running towards the pods, right? How does that occur to him right away? Is my question. Like, my experience with drug addicts is that they're not going to be, like, super with it if you wake them up from whatever drug-induced coma they are in. It was just silly. But they got the scene that they wanted out of it, which is her strapping in and landing on the planet. And at least that was cool. You know, this is how these shows are produced. Is you have cool moments that people come up with, and they put them down. We have excellent artists creating the concept art for these things. And that's what I think. I'm convinced, like, if in their little meetings, that's how they sell the show. Is they're like, look at this. this is a cool scene right here. And they're like, wow, that's brilliant. Green light. With who is it? Leslie Headland? Who... I'm not the kind of guy who, like, researches credentials and shit, you know? I just see the dumb clips online with her talking about how she loved Frozen, and that's part of what inspired the script for the show. The Acolyte. That's what it was called. Because I said Ashoka, and I'm like, no, that's a different show. But anyway, she loved Frozen, and that's basically what this is going to turn into. Like, so we have the setup now with the... I'm going to make Beast, like, grinning. Or should I? Yeah, I'll have him grin. But it's going to be her realize, oh man, I was bad. You know, the love we have as sisters, that's what's going to bring me back. That's what it's going to be. And I can't be less excited for it. I'm not going to watch the rest of this fucking thing. Unless I see a clip of something that's so bananas that I have to watch it just to make it make sense. Like, I see this page from a recent Wonder Woman comic book going around where she's talking about how she ate a rat once. And if you just take that one page, it doesn't read right. There's got to be some context to it, because otherwise it's another waste of good art. There's so much good artists and good art that are wasted with bad writing. It needs to stop. I need to stop it. You see how terrible I am. If there's any good artists who want to help me finish producing things, call me. I don't know why I looked at my wrist just then, but contact me. Fearless Will on X. So that's what we're going to get. I've heard horrible things about this Wookiee episode. Like, they didn't even have a Wookiee fight. Which, they keep talking about the budget being like $100 million per episode. Should Beast be upright like that? I don't even think he should be upright. He should be, like, upside down. He should be doing some athletic stuff. Maybe I should switch him up with Gambit. In this thing. Or maybe if I get rid of Beast here. Because do I need Colossus? Or could I give Gambit more space here? Have him with his card, right? Have his staff coming up like that, so that you know how he's holding it. Have his leg coming out with the duster right here. And then put Beast here, be upside down somehow. I'm thinking about putting Beast upside down. Have it be his feet, you know? That way I can draw some feet. There's barely any feet on this thing. I got Rogue's feet, kinda. And they don't look terrible right now. We'll see how I feel about them later. Man, should I get rid of Nightcrawler? I'll keep thinking this over. We're already at 50 minutes. I gotta wrap up my thoughts on this Acolyte. Yeah, at one point, the Jedi are running to catch What's-Her-Face, and they literally are like, stop in the name of the Jedi Order. Like, you're literally just police officers. You could if you took the robes off and put them in, like, NYPD costumes and made it about a twin who was being a serial killer and have them find the right one. Like, that's literally, you could turn this whole thing into a Law and Order, some sort of cop procedural, easily. And you shouldn't be able to. Shouldn't be able to do that with a Star Wars show. How would I redo The Acolyte? I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking about kind of borrowing a little bit from Dune, where it's, if you introduce a planet that's just like super rich in a specific important mineral, and that planet is either being attacked or invaded, whatever, by hostile power with Sith backing. Basically, I mean, in The Phantom Menace, that's essentially what happened, where the Trade Federation was surrounding Naboo. Sorry, I need to speak into the microphone. The Trade Federation was surrounding Naboo, and they had the Sith working alongside them, and the Jedi had to go and protect Naboo from the robots and save the day. But what would I do differently about it? I'll chew on that. But definitely not a coven of space lesbians who are redefining what the Force is. It's a string now. The whole thing's a headache. Trying to be a fan right now must be a headache. I occasionally meet people who tell me things like She-Hulk was good, which is contrary to everything else I've seen. I've met people that think that Game of Thrones Season 8 was not terrible, and that the only reason I don't like it is because it wasn't like what I thought was going to happen. And that's only 50% of what's wrong with it. The other 50% is, the setup that you promised, the payoff to that would have been better than what I got. You set up Jon Snow the whole series, and for him to essentially not do anything at the end of the day. And then you made Bran, who has literally not had anything to do with, he became a magic raven, and nothing happened with that, essentially. It's so dumb. Everything about it. It baffles me. I swear they do it to piss me off. People who are like, tell me that they enjoyed Season 8 of Game of Thrones, I think they're trying to get me to go off about just all the ways that it was not good. But this is not good either. The sequels could have been so much better. But I'm already at 55 minutes. Yeah, I gotta hold back from rehashing everything I would have done differently. If I made Star Wars, like, saw someone post earlier that all they need is a good Star Wars show, and then Star Wars is back. And I'm like, anyone who could make a good Star Wars show, they really ought to just make their own IP and forget Star Wars. And Rebel Moon was apparently terrible, which was Zack Snyder's attempt at doing that. But yeah, Zack Snyder's proving himself to be unworthy of any faith that he makes good products. Yeah, he was responsible for Watchmen. I enjoyed Watchmen. I didn't think they'd be able to make Watchmen work as a movie, but it did. But after that, I'm not sure I enjoyed any of Zack Snyder's stuff. Anyway, I really ought to be more thoughtful with this. Like I said, the content will improve. Everything's going to get tighter. I don't anticipate anyone's actually watching this right now. Of my 5 followers, probably one person's going to watch one of my 4 videos now that I have up. But thank you for watching. I'm tempted to run it out for 3 more minutes. How stupid were those Gungans? How, like... It's gonna be 3 minutes of me shaking my head. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take care. Till next